Okay, sweet. All right. Welcome to the Base Podcast. Thank you guys very much for being part of this. So we've got David Cottle, we've got Irene. No, wow, no, I've just screwed it up already. I, Irene, Irene, damn it. All right, sorry about that. Irene, and we've got Vikki. So if you guys just want to do like a little intro of you yourself and what you teach.
Yes, I am David Cottle. I teach, or my class title nowadays is Concepts and Choreo, because I like to try and find a nice balance between giving students tools and implementing them into routines and trying to express kind of the embodiment of timbre music. That's like one of my main focuses.
I'm Irene Salvi, and I'm Italian, but I live in London now for 10 years. And I teach heels, which is like heels technique, heels choreography, and just like in general, how to perform a choreography and a movement in a heel, and how to feel good as a dancer in a heel, and how to feel free to express yourself in a heel.
I'm Vikki Clarke. I'm Scottish and I've been living in London for 4 years, and I've not had my class at Base for very long, just under a year, and I've called it movement because I like to encourage people to feel before they move and also not forget that they're a human before they dance. So to encourage them to bring that element into the space and to connect. That's it.
Cool. All right. So today, the subjects of today's kind of pod are teaching, what kind of we think makes a good teacher, and then also kind of a teacher's process in preparing for their class, and then we want to touch a little bit on class culture itself as well. So let's start with the opening one. What it's quite a broad question, but what for you do you think makes a good teacher? Let's go, Vikki. We can go reverse order now. So, Vikki, you can kick us off.
Yeah, and I like how you put to you, because I guess it is just subject to the individual. What I like are teachers that don't give me too much, but give me enough. And also teachers that see everyone in the space and not just certain individuals. Yeah, I think it is just, for me, it's just I like teachers that tell me how the movement should feel, but also let me just express in whatever way without taking away from the choreography and what I'm given. It's given me that knowledge to be like, this is what it feels like. Now just go and explore that for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so a sense of autonomy, perhaps, like within what you're being taught.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like the figure of a teacher, to me, when I say teacher, I'll always say that a teacher is an educator at the same time as a teacher. So teaching to me is like a name that nowadays we use to in a broader way. I think we have to remember that, like, we also educate people, not just dancers but people, like in the class there is students. And I think it's important because, to me, my dance teachers were like my inspirations in life, not just in the dance studio. So a good teacher is someone that I look up to as a person, and not, of course, also as a as a mover, but also as a person. Like, how does the person conducts the class? Like, a good teacher is someone that enters the class and know that they have a baggage that they can give to the students, and they can step out of class being like, you know what, today I have something new in my pocket. I've grown in an hour, which,
Yeah.
like, ultimately that's the goal. And of course, I'm not going to be like the best dancer in the world after an hour, but to me, like, a good teacher is someone that, like, you step out of their class and you're like, damn, like, I want to go back because I had so much during that like hour and a half. And also, I feel like the teacher needs to take themselves as, like, of course, they're like in charge of the class, but the class is not for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think nowadays that's important to remind people, because it feels like it's like a show sometimes, and I hate that. So it needs to become like for the students and not for the teacher. Like, the teacher is there to and I say this a lot in my class, I want my students to be better than me. Like I want people to be good. I don't want myself to be, of course I want to be better, but you know, it needs to be someone that is there for someone else. And then there's, you know, other questions about it, but yeah.
That's great. Okay, David, go for it.
I think first and foremost, a good teacher is a good student. Definitely always remaining like hungry and curious to grow themselves, and never getting too kind of complacent and like, thinking like, oh, I've got to this point now, I can just impart some knowledge and just stay at this level that I'm at. I think important as well is just like knowledge of your movement or what you're teaching. Like if it's a style, some cultural, historical knowledge. I think you need to be able to offer more than just kind of steps and counts, whether that's like ideas, different approaches, techniques, tools, so that like the students can work on finding their own artistic voice versus you just always putting yours on top of them and then just they leave and forget everything after 2 weeks. I think musical knowledge is really important, at least like basic rhythmic knowledge as like a minimum. I think a good teacher will give feedback, will have like some sort of personal connection where possible to the students so that they can understand their strengths and weaknesses and more appropriately guide them as to how to improve. And I think it should always just be like a balance of like dance, like just dancing for fun, having fun, and being able to confidently push and guide people outside of their comfort zones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some great points from all of you guys there. And I think what, you know, particularly was touched on was the human aspect of a teacher as well, and then the kind of leadership role. But then also, you all kind of seem to mention how the teacher should be able to help you grow, but not just restrict you with what they're kind of trying to, with any parameters. I mean, there's going to be parameters with maybe what you're giving to the class in terms of if it's a sequence or if it's even if it's an exercise and there are set parameters within the exercise, but you're trying, like, there may be a reason for those parameters because the growth is the kind of the goal, you know? So I really think that there's been some excellent points there, you know, about teaching and the role of a teacher, you know, because I feel like now sometimes, well, certainly in the COVID kind of, you know, era, teaching is one of the few routes dancers right now have to kind of financial, you know, to actually make some money. So I feel like more people are going towards it, but maybe not necessarily with the awareness that all of you have just kind of spoken about, you know, really, really so well. Can you think of any particular teachers or any particular lessons you took from teachers who influenced how you like to teach?
Yeah. Oh. No, on you go. I went first the last time.
I went to New York a little over a year ago and took Eric Negron's class for the first time.
He's amazing.
Genuinely, like, one of the best classes I've ever taken in my life. Like, and I feel like it was so casual for him because he just kind of warmed us up for like 15 minutes. We're just dancing nonstop. The energy was great, and then he just makes this combo, this most amazing combo, amazing feeling combo on the spot, and goes through house, locking, and popping, all within this kind of framework of his stylized movement. And it was just like top, like completely top. I think someone who definitely inspires me in terms of like the class structure is Hazel, because she's so great at balancing exploration and allowing the students to find what they enjoy doing and lead with their own feeling. But she guides everyone in such a way that you just feel like safe to try different stuff, to maybe like fall, to be wrong, to be uncomfortable. Yeah, definitely.
Vikki, go for it.
So someone that introduced me to the sort of hip hop commercial world was my friend back home, Levon. And he used to do the similar thing where he would come in and just create the most amazing combo on the spot. So he had that method, and then also he would come in and just teach a whole class without speaking. And that's something similar to what you do, John. And I really enjoy that because then you don't have the chance to ask questions, and you've you're forced to be your own teacher, you know, and that's where sometimes what I would do as well as a student, I like to move about the space. I don't just stay in the one spot. So 1 minute I'll be up the back because I like to observe first, and then I'll go down the front. And I'll change up my space. But I really enjoy that way of teaching because, and also like when I've travelled abroad and I can't speak the language, so I don't know what they're saying. So I have to be more attentive to what they're doing and what they demand as a teacher. And also like my absolute inspiration of the entire world is Diana Matos. And after training with her recently, and I've done 3 months now, but my injuries so I had to take a step out at the moment. But what that woman can do through a screen halfway across the world just amazes me. Like, to be fair, I don't really enjoy dancing in my living room, and I've sort of given that up for the moment. But what she made me feel through a camera screen, and it's just, yeah, what she would describe how the movement would feel, and right then I would get frustrated with myself because I couldn't get it there and then. But I had to sit with it, and then once it made sense, I'm like, that's what you want. So to find, like, to be in my own body and to be inside the movement, that's what she encouraged, and it was just incredible. Rather than looking at me from the outside in, I'm the inside out, and that's what I like to sort of bring into my space as well. So yeah, she's just amazing, and she doesn't shame people for making mistakes. It's like she's tough, and I like that way of teaching, but I don't like to be shamed and be made a fool of for making mistakes. So yeah, so that's that.
Nice. Irene, go for it.
I actually love hearing this as well, you know, like just I like to talk about what I feel, but I love hearing as well, like other people inspired by this, because we don't really talk about, you know, this. I feel like we talk about the classes that are going on, but I love to hear how other people got inspired, like in the teaching method, because we don't really talk about it. So I feel like this is very good. Well, I had a lot of teachers that inspired me to be a good teacher. I'm very strong about this. I feel like I've been in some classes that I was like, huh, what's going on? Like, I don't really want to pay you for this. So my aim is always to be a good teacher. And I tried my best to, like, you know, go and learn from the people that I've heard that were good, and then like discover it by myself. And well, to me, like my two teachers that made me become now someone that understands how to teach a class, I think, are Dana Foglia and Boy Boy. Um, Dana's been like my mentor. So I just feel like, in a way, me and other teachers that come from her training, you can kind of see that we've been trained by her, not like in just the movement, because then you find yourself, but her, I mean, it's hard to explain, but I felt like when I stepped into her class, I didn't know how to dance in a good way. Um, but her knowledge of the movement and her knowledge of like how to explain what to do something makes you feel like you can't do it at first. But she's kind of like how Vikki was saying about Diana, is like that balance between like being very harsh and being there for you, you know? So yeah, she definitely, and the way that she hears music as well, really like made me feel like, oh my God, I mean, I listen to the music, but I don't listen to fully to what it is. Before I started teaching, I felt like the panic was just in the movement, when you weren't really like hearing what you were dancing on. And I feel like when I started training with Dana, I did like 3 mentorships with her. So I remember taking so many notes because I wanted to become a good dancer, but also like a good teacher. And I wanted to learn so much. So I still have like a notepad with all my notes from teachers that we had. And another person that really, like, I have so many notes from her class. I remember I had my notepad next to me, and I like sometimes went to write things down because I was like, damn, like, it's Rhapsody. I love how Rhapsody teaches. She has a major like old school knowledge, like of like just dance, you know, her musicality, she doesn't I don't know, it's just the way she explains how to really dance. I remember I was in her class in January, actually, in 2020, and she gets mad if you don't dance, if you don't listen to the music. And the way that she is, you're just there and you're like, damn, like she's so right. Like we're not dancing, we're like executing the movement. And I mean, she just has so much knowledge. I love her. She's very she's very inspirational. And then we have like so many good teachers in London as well. Like I remember at one time I asked Nicholas Millen to go in his class and just take notes. Like, because to me, when I met Nicholas, I was like, I need to know how to teach like that because his movement is so hard, but somehow he knows how to teach that. And I mean, David, like I didn't even know that you were in this call, but I just knew. When I was thinking about like, you know, teachers that inspire me, I feel like there isn't that many teachers that talk about musicality nowadays. And to me, it's very important because I've come from a musical background as well. And we stick to the 1, 2, and 3 sometimes. And David really, whenever like I learn from David, is like, oh damn, like this is more, you know, I don't know how to explain it. So you can hear just my voice now, but with my hands, you know, but no, but it is true. I feel like there is a lot of people, there is so many people now. I feel like nowadays we need to give credit to more people that know what they're doing, because sometimes they're like, oh, there isn't no one that can teach. I'm like, that's not true, you know. That is not true. There is enough people that sit down and actually think about what to do in class and have had the training to do that, especially in London, because we always try to go abroad and we don't look.
Yeah, I think that's one thing we're actually really blessed with, but sometimes,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, people only, they think of going to, don't get me wrong, there's amazing talent in every city, you know, and particularly the big cities, but, you know, London is an incredible kind of center for dance, but you have to, it's kind of like, you know, we don't always appreciate what's closest to us, you know, and actually we are really, it's such for a huge variety of things, you know, and I guess you only kind of think about it, really we don't think about it, even though we're here, you know. And I'm the same, even just the city itself, like not even just talking about dance, but just how amazing a city London is, you know. It's like we really let that pass us by just because we just do our normal daily things. But yeah, some of the names, I mean, you know, like Eric Negron is like the hidden gem of dance. I feel like I met Eric, you know, 20 years ago, you know, so like, but this guy is literally the most, you know, amazing dancer I've ever seen in my life. I can't get that across to people enough, because he's one of the people for me who can make his freestyle into a choreography, but it still works perfectly. And I think that's such there are incredible freestylers in the world. You just need to watch, you know, any of the top shelf battles and you'll see incredible people, but not all of those people can actually formulate that into like a phrase that makes sense on other people's bodies. But that's something he's able to do. And even just like David, you were saying, the way he puts all those different influences of styles with all the authenticity, but he makes them fit perfectly together, you know. And then like even, you know, Irene talking about you know, Dana and Rhapsody. Like again, Rhapsody was one of the first teachers I ever took in New York. Again, we're going back 20 years, you know, and I mean, I was shocking. I often tell people the story of my first ever class. So I'd been dancing a few months and we went to New York for the summer to work over there in between years at university. And I would do a beginner's class, an intermediate class, and an advanced class like throughout the day. And hers was the last class, the advanced class. And like, I would go from being like, okay, to bad to just shockingly bad, like in the advanced class. But you know, I knew I was a beginner, but I kind of wanted to make the most of the city. I'd only get 1 day off a week. So I wanted to dance every level. And like the first time I ever took a class, like I literally got the first 4 counts of the whole routine. And the routine was about like 16 8 counts long. But every time she'd press play, I'd do my 4 counts, muddle through another 8 count, and then just stand to the side. But by the end of the summer, I was able to get better and better. But yeah, they're there. And Dana was still her assistant at that stage. She hadn't yet kind of branched out on her own, you know. And then obviously, as Vikki was talking about Deanna there, you know, I think the whole world kind of, you know, knows how amazing she is. So yeah, some wonderful people there for sure. Okay, let's go back to you guys now. And let's talk about your creative processes for your class. Either your creative process, or maybe if you have like a process in terms of how you plan your class. So not just in terms of what you come up with for it, in terms of like the content choreographically, but even kind of how you like to plan your class. So yeah, David, do you want to go first, buddy?
Sure. For me, I've tried probably within the last year or so to balance out my class a bit more between freestyle stuff, concepts, drills, ideas, as well as like a choreography. I mean, I would always try to have choreography that gives more than just steps, like an idea or something that can be taken away and developed and broken down on its own. But in the last year, I've really tried to like whatever I've worked on. So I'll kind of freestyle, have a little session by myself, find one or two things that I want to focus on, be it like bounce rock groove, isolation, threading, or different like singular concepts, and then just play with them, develop them, find something that's like interesting to me, find some music that makes me feel a type of way, because I feel like the music is always the leader for me, and implement and try to mix, similarly to like Eric's stuff, mix what is my stylized movement with something more foundational that can be taken away and developed by the students on their own. I think it's important to strike that kind of balance, which is what I've been trying to do most recently, I'd say.
It takes me ages. I've spoke to you about this, John. Like, it takes me ages to create, because sometimes I'll listen to a song and then I'll be like, right, okay, so this is the one. And then I'll start creating and I go, no, I don't like that anymore. I'm not feeling it. So then sometimes I'll keep the combo but then change the track. And then if that works, then I'll go with that. But usually, well, my class is on the Sunday. I'll listen. I've got like a little playlist of tracks that I like. And I'll usually listen to the track that I want for the full week. And then we'll get to the Friday, I'll start creating. The Saturday, I'll refine it, sometimes even change bits. And then sometimes I like to practice. I get quite nervous. I'm nervous now, so I had to admit that. Like, when I speak, that's when my nerves come out. That's why I dance. And then, yeah, I'll practice teaching it because I do get really nervous. But once the class starts, I warm into it. And then when it comes to my class on Sunday, because I'm usually the nervous one, so I like to just break the tension and be like, guys, have a chat, introduce yourself. And then what we'll do is I like to do like coming across the floor exercises, and I like for people to then move about the space, so then that changes the energy of the space. And yeah, like the warm-ups kind of depends on what it is I'm about to teach, and it goes off the feeling of that. So yeah, that's my process. It's quite long. Sometimes it's the morning of, because then I decide to change it. So I just go with however I'm feeling.
It really depends. I feel like I go in like waves of how I want to prepare myself, because before I used to write down everything because I was just very like, I didn't want to lose track of class and stuff like that. Now I feel like it's more natural. And because I teach heels a little bit more, it really depends on the time. Like sometimes to create is the same as Vikki. It takes me a long time because I just don't want to create just for the sake of creating. I call it when people vomit choreography just for the sake of like doing it. And to me, it's not real. Like I don't want to step out of class, and it's actually very easy to create something just for the sake of creating it. And I hate it. I can't feel good in it. I want to give my students something that they feel good. It's hard, that is hard enough, but you still feel good in it. So I just don't want to fall into that. That's why it takes me a while, because again, it's just a song needs to be something that I've been listening to for a long time. And I don't know, it's something about a tune that is like, oh my God, this is it. And sometimes actually it's funny because I listen to a song for a long time, and then I get to the studio, I'm like, okay, this is it. And then I'm like, I don't know. And then I put another song on random, and then I end up doing like a 2 minutes choreography on that other song. And it happens so many times, it's crazy. It actually, like, I just know now that it happens, I have my playlist of heels songs or anything that is, makes me feel like I want to put a heel on. And it happens like that. I found lately it's very helpful for me to have someone in the studio with me. So I would just call a friend and be like, hey, come in, I'll choreograph on the spot. It's kind of like a game in a way for me to be like, think that I know what the moves are, because they need to come naturally out of my body. Because sometimes I feel like sometimes I get a bit anxious because I overthink a lot, because I want to make something not perfect, but make something that I like, to the point that it is just, I think too much, you know? So if you have a person there, I feel comfortable to be like, okay, do this, do that. And then of course I'm doing it too, but it actually really helped me lately to do that. Because it flows a little bit better. And also I'm not by myself. Like, I feel like I'm such a people person. Now I miss it, but I want to move with people, you know, like if usually when I choreograph is a song that I love. So I want the other person or people that are with me to just vibe with me on the song and feel it with me. And then, you know, I think it's important, especially in teaching heels. To me, it doesn't have to be just choreography. I want to make sure that people actually know what they're doing, because I mean, anyone could do that, but also you have to do it right. So I always try to teach someone before I teach my class what I have choreographed, because I want to make sure that I know what I'm doing. I count it, I make noises. I just, it's important. It actually really happened that I taught something that I haven't taught even my housemate, like in the kitchen, like I need to let it out, because the last thing I want to do is to get into a class and not knowing what's going on. Usually I know, but I just need to get it out to someone else and just know. And also, I mean, this is recent because we have just an hour and 20 minutes. So to me, it's like, that's why I say always when people come to my class is not, it can't be one off, because you're not going to know how to do it with one class. It's just very different because it's a technique as well, So I always try, warm up for sure. We need to warm up. And then, to strengthen our ankles, I have like plan of a movement that I would put after the warm up, or an exercise that would be in the routine after. I do that because I don't want people to be stuck on a move and then not be able to feel and dance just because of that transition. So sometimes I do that, but it really depends. I just want people to be challenged but be comfortable. So the whole class needs to have like a go-to. You start and you understand, and then you get it. You're probably not going to get it completely. You have to do it again, but it is, yeah. Ish.
Yeah, it's a process, as you said. I think that's exactly what.
Yeah. And I also feel like the class, what I create for class sometimes is different from what I would create for a concert video that I'm doing or anything else. Like, I don't know, it's different. I choose how I feel throughout the choreography. Is like, sometimes I create something and I'm like, but in that class, I'm going to work on something else. So, it really depends. I just want people to understand various sides of the dancing.
And that's a great way of looking at it, because, class to me should always be a testing ground for your skill, like I feel like something that you guys have all kind of mentioned is the comfort zone. And I think that we want to make students feel comfortable, but you kind of want to make them feel comfortable also getting uncomfortable. It kind of feel like a safe space for them to I actually think people need to kind of feel like making mistakes in class is healthy, but so long as you learn from them, and that's what I kind of always say to people. I don't mind you making mistakes, but I just don't want you making the same mistakes over and over, because then, that's kind of a sloppy attitude on your part, you know what I mean? But it's absolutely no problem to make mistakes. Like even Vikki, when you were saying with Deanna, the program, her kind of, she's kind of like, obviously the goal isn't to make mistakes, but the goal, draw attention to your mistakes, but then not in a nasty way, in a way to kind of help you grow, And I feel like even kind of general dance discourse, we've kind of lost a little bit of that kind of ability, that ability for critique, but healthy critique, not critique for the sake of it. And I don't get me wrong, like I think there is, and as has come out, particularly over the last year during lockdown, I think like a lot of the toxicity that exists within dance culture has kind of come to the fore, seemingly more so in the United States. I don't know if you guys have seen a lot of the stuff that's been going on there, but we don't want it to kind of get to a stage where you can't, like, especially in the part of the role of a teacher is critiquing the students, but to help them grow. And I feel like sometimes we kind of, I don't know, I do feel like sometimes people don't want that as part of their class experience, which I feel is a shame, because then it's actually missing something. And you almost as a teacher feel like you're unsure if like I'll always say, oh, you know, this should be like this, or this needs to be like this, but you kind of learn by the reaction that someone gives you for that, whether they actually want that as part of their as part of their class experience or not, you know? And I feel like it would be a shame if that kind of got lost from class, because it's kind of a vital part really of a healthy class environment, you know?
It is a little bit lost though. I feel like the corrections, you know, because that when I go to a class and the teacher corrects me, it's like, yes, thank you, but it shouldn't be yes, thank you. It should be kind of like a given. But I mean, it depends what class you go to, of course. But I remember, like, I don't know, even just jazz technique classes or like choreography classes. To me, when you know the teacher should really watch the class and correct you in a way, because if not, it's just a playground. But it again, it really depends on what class you go to, because it depends what the aim of the class is. But I feel like I'm happier when the teacher actually notices something that you can improve. It's not just a correction saying you're wrong. It's more like, hey, you could do this because I think you'll be great doing that, you know? It's a bit lost. But
100%, yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that's, it's like sometimes it's down to the teacher themselves, and then sometimes it's kind of maybe down to the culture, the kind of class culture that has developed, which actually segues nicely, because that's the next thing I would like us to kind of talk about, class culture, and maybe that can be our lead into it. That, I mean, I think obviously the growth of social media over the last 10 years, 12 years or so has played such a role in class culture and the change in class culture. And even a couple of you guys earlier, when we were talking about what makes a good teacher, we're kind of saying the teacher should teach for the students, not for themselves, but I think we probably have all experienced teachers whose goal is to get a video of themselves or themselves and their friends at the end of a class, rather than their goal being to teach the group. Now, don't get me wrong, if you happen to teach and your friends are there and they're killing it, by all means, get a video at the end of your class, but don't forget about everything else that kind of happens in between, even down to a little thing for me with class culture. Like, I know there are some people that don't even warm up their class. Like, I don't know, to me, I don't enjoy it. I mean, I love the warm up as part of class. Like, me and Marco, like, I do it myself when I teach by myself, but when we teach together.
I think it's important.
Yeah, for sure. It is. Go for it.
It's so important. Yeah,
it's very important. I mean, it's important even from just a preparation point of view for your body to dance, but even just like I don't know, we often do like a couple of songs, and we might do like we kind of just do it on the spot. Like, I'll do 4 counts, we teach at halftime, then everyone has to do a tempo, then he does 4, and we just build like a little sequence. And we'll do that, maybe we'll do that with hip hop, maybe then we'll do it with a house track, and we'll kind of just see what builds. But like, I feel like it's just one of the things that, like, however you want to warm up, even if you want to do like an old school, like, kind of what would have been considered a typical warm up like 15 years ago, just isolations, and then a very kind of like a, the typical kind of stretches, etc., that come after that. I just feel like any type of warm up would be kind of, helpful. But for me, certainly, even actually Irene, as you said, like sometimes giving part of the sequence in the warm up, just to kind of get people used to it. Sometimes if there's like a tricky footwork part that's going to come in, because I kind of see a weakness in people's footwork, has kind of become more to the fore over the last few years. So I would kind of do it quite a few times halftime, and then we'd build up to do a tempo, and then we'd park it until maybe an hour later, and we'd reintroduce it into the kind of sequence that we're working on, So yeah, let's kind of go, and you guys can kind of, talk to me maybe about your impressions of class culture, and things that you've noticed change during your experience, through dance classes over the last however many years. David, go for it, buddy.
I think there's a lot of kind of complacency, just on a rather general note with students. Like sometimes it feels like a lot of students have kind of these expectations of you as a teacher, and like you said, sometimes they'll react kind of strangely to feedback because maybe they weren't expecting that, or they just wanted it to go smoothly, be picked at the end, get their video and bounce, and not even like talk to you afterwards and be like, oh, hey, that was nice, what could I work on? Like, that's so rare, and I find that so refreshing when that happens, when someone comes up to me and says, oh, did you see like anything that I could work on? Like, I'm like, yeah, you could probably do this, or try this, or like, there was a part of it where we were using this concept, which is from this style, maybe do a bit of research on that, or take Sean's class because I was using a bit of Boogaloo. Like, it builds such a better connection and a more of a solid ground for the teacher to solidify their knowledge and the student to gain new knowledge as well, I think. And that's something that is just quite rare to me. I think the video thing is also a bit of a madness, and it's taking away a lot from the students. But it's hard to combat it, I think, because it's such an ingrained part of everyday life. Like, everything you see is videos, it's like 4K, mega high quality. And even if you can't provide that as a teacher, the student's going to go with their iPhone 11, they're going to ask someone that they've never met, hey, film me. And then they video and they're going to go home. And it's like, you missed everything that the class was meant to be about. And the video doesn't even look good. But yeah, it's a bit crazy. But I think there just needs to be a bit more willingness to look like you suck and be uncomfortable, and I feel like as soon as people get to a certain point these days, whether it be social media clout or just clout from being in the certain classes and getting solos and stuff, which is wonderful, you should highlight people always, but sometimes that builds in them this inability to look bad, or this just unwillingness to look bad and uncomfortable, so they'll no longer go to the classes where they know that they won't get it. They'll go to the classes where they'll be like, easy, nice, comfortable 8 counts, get a nice, or maybe not even nice video, but the purpose of the class for them will just be an ego refresher, and just something to confirm to them, yeah, I'm as good as I think I am. Okay, I'm good. But that's just only ever going to keep you at this kind of same level. And there's just so much more to it when you actually put yourself in those places that you can't yet grasp, because it gives you something to work towards and something to improve on. And especially when it comes to foundation, I think that's a massive missing gap in a lot of people's understanding. I mean, the amount of times like I've had like glide footwork in my class, and glides was one of the first things I learned when I was like 12 or 13, just off Seawalk videos on YouTube, and people just haven't the slightest clue, or like really like you're saying, footwork is also a missing thing. But I think foundation, or just interest in a style, like I think people, there's so much out there in terms of variety culturally and stylistically, that there will be something that you like, there will be something that brings your attention. It doesn't always have to just be choreo to trendy tracks on whatever is the current thing that's going around and all your friends are gassed about it. That's great, be gassed about it, but dance can give you so much more, and you can give it so much more if you just branch out and try to like do your own research. I think people are scared to kind of find what they enjoy. They're just like, people enjoy this, so I think I should enjoy this.
Yeah, I think you, like you said, and it's weird actually, there's so much information out there now, like more than there ever has been, because, you know, even like us now, we're just talking online over video, you know, even though we're miles away from one another, but there is so much information but people don't seem to look for it. And I think another good point you made, David, was that like, what's popular, people are naturally drawn to that, you know, but then there is such a broader spectrum of material and context, even historically and culturally, for a lot of the dances, you know, and that's fascinating on top of it. And it just gives you a greater depth of knowledge of the field that you know, obviously love. Like, you know, we all love dance. I mean, you know, and some people, I guess there are different aspects you can love to it. Some people really love the performance aspect of it, and some people love the practical aspect of it, like just dance itself, like everything to do with kind of class and knowledge and learning and deeper understanding. And for some people actually, oh no, I love it because I get to perform, and that's cool as well. I guess we have to allow the space for everything in there. But you raise some really, really kind of good points about the videoing of class isn't going to stop, but maybe there'll be kind of a greater understanding of how to utilize it. Like, I don't know, I have no problem with people videoing, but I feel like use that video, like watch it, kind of see what you can learn from it, or track your progression, like video what you take, and then maybe say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do this one with a goal to make every move as big as I can, and then video it and see if you did, I think, I think it's not going anywhere. So we need to kind of accept and then maybe work on how best it can be utilized going forward, Yeah.
Interesting. I feel like there is this duality of like people thinking that it's going to be one or the other. You either choose to follow something that's popular and trendy and this segregated idea of like choreography and what that means for you, or you're a foundation head who commits to styles. It's like there doesn't need to be such a separation at all. Like, especially when it comes to, you said, like people who just purely love performance. You'll ask them who they're inspired by, and they'll say people like, oh, Diana, and like people of that caliber. And they'll think that all they did to get there is take commercial classes. Now, Diana's doing foundations from day and like finding herself within them and then bringing that back to her strength in performance. So that when she's doing a gig and they say, Diana, you need to go across the stage, you have 4 whole 8s to yourself, do something cool. She can't just rely on her performance to bring her through. She has to bring something deeper. And that's where I feel like foundation and some deeper knowledge comes in handy. Like when you're on those kind of jobs and they say, you have a chance to be free, what do you want to do? You actually have some like, oh, actually, I really loved when this person was teaching me this combo in house. I'm going to try do that across the whole stage, or try do it with 3 different levels. Mm-hmm. You have something more interesting to play with, I feel.
100%, yes. And yeah, I guess as you deepen your knowledge of I mean, like dance is such a, wide kind of ranging topic that there is so much you can bring. And just the more you have to offer, like whether it be on a professional level or even just for yourself when you're moving, like you're going to learn from any aspect of dance that you study, so like even though your goal might be to be a working backing dancer, that doesn't mean that you don't that you shouldn't study like a style that's not necessarily always seen in that kind of realm.
Yeah.
Like, particularly for me, like when I watch like backing dancing and kind of commercial dancing, it's really become so generic, so it's when it's not generic that it really stands out. Yeah. And I feel like the same way, music follows the same trend. Like people are now actively trying to recreate the successful songs on Spotify, like the algorithm. They kind of try and study the algorithm to then, and then the same kind of thing exists in dance. Like people watch kind of what's happening behind, say last year was J-Lo's Super Bowl performance, and so then you'd see kind of don't get me wrong, it was dope. Paris Goba killed it, you know what I mean? And any of the contributing choreographers, like they made a fantastic show. But then what happens is you then see elements of that show creeping into other people's shows. And I mean, we're all inspired by each other. That's fantastic. And that's a big part. Even kind of, as Irene was saying earlier, like even just hearing other teachers talk about teaching and about the people they inspire them, like that's inspiring, like that's a big part of the growth of what we do, hearing and seeing what other people are doing and saying. But it also kind of can inhibit what can be, or just what we're all capable of, because we try and kind of just recreate maybe what we've already seen, Mm. Yeah, I mean, there's so much to it. Is there anything you would like to see change about class culture?
I just think more connection and like interaction, like I was saying, like student and teacher interaction, or students interacting with each other. But like that feeds into the fact that there's such a rarity when it comes to consistency. Like Irene said, some people will just come for the drop in, and then you'll never see them, or maybe see them in 3 months' time. It's like consistency is another thing that would be nice to see more of, just because I think that would help build a stronger like sense of community and like a connection just between everybody as well. I think more open-mindedness, willingness to be uncomfortable, like I said, and just, yeah, bigger focus on foundation, just for the students' sake, not anyone else's sake, because I think they will gain more from dance and realize just how much more infinite it is if they dive deep into something that like moves them.
Certainly. Yeah. No, for sure. And it's one of those things that's, you know, like, because you can say it over and over to a group of dancers, but you can't kind of force them to you know, act on it.
Yeah.
You know, it's but I always feel like people arrive at a point in their own time. So you kind of have to allow for that as well, you know, allow people to kind of get to that point where they maybe are like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, for me, sometimes it baffles me, like teaching at something like base camp, and you're kind of doing, you know, the warm up. Like I said, I love doing warm ups, and like I'll throw in like variations on kind of, you know, very fundamental foundational steps, and people can't handle the variations because they can barely handle the foundation step itself, you know. So they really can't handle when you do a variation. And I'm kind of like scratching my head thinking, I just watched the end of the last class and you were really good. Like you were really good at that. And it baffles me that what I would consider definitely a basic is quite a weak kind of spot in your, you know, your abilities, you know? So I always find that really interesting. And then by the time I've taught the sequence that we're actually working on, they look great in their own way in a choreographed sequence, but they struggle with kind of, you know, the initial part of the foundation. I always find that fascinating. I guess, yeah, I think as well, maybe because the popularity of very choreographed videos over the last, you know, well, since social media kind of really exploded, has maybe been to the detriment of the foundational mentality, you know, or that desire for a kind of growth in foundational movement. And like even say like Irene, for something like heels, like what would you, because people look at heels and they think like, oh, it's just dancing with heels on your feet, but they don't necessarily think of all the technical aspects that go into it.
I feel like heels, I hate it because I'm too honest. So I'm like, you know, I can't shut my mouth. I'm that person. But you know, sometimes a heels class becomes a bit of a madness nowadays. That's why I want to keep teaching. And that's why I have studied a lot before I wanted to teach it. This is not in any shady way. I just know that before I teach something, I need to really, you know, really understand how, not understand and copy others. I really want to be myself, but with the tools that someone else gave me, and not someone else, one person, because I really try to, like, you know, learn from different teachers. And that's why I traveled a lot. And I didn't train just under, you know, Dana, but like I tried to really like go to all the people that inspired me and learn from them. I think any student that walks into a heels class, sometimes people think that is, you know, it is just based on how hot you can look in a heel. But I'm telling you that, you know, ballet and jazz and all that stuff, you know, sometimes it helps. And I'm the first person that when I went to college, I hated ballet. You know, I was that kid. Now, like, I actually like I've been taking ballet during lockdown, like, because I feel like the more you look like a all-rounded dancer, like, and I'm saying like even foundations, like you can see if someone can groove and has technique like that. To me, that's the most complete dancer, you know, and can freestyle and can do anything. But especially in, you know, while you're dancing in heels, you can see who's someone that can really hold themselves up in a heel and have technique. And if I'm telling you stretch your legs, you're going to stretch your legs and not think that you're stretching your legs. You know, there is like a whole, I mean, I come from very old school training. That's why to me, like, I, you know, whatever you, John, are saying, like, to me, that's, I grew up with strict teachers, old school teachers. There was no cameras in the studio, you know, there was literally just us. And we wanted to get better without thinking, hold up, I need to film myself at the end of class and look like I'm booking a world tour, you know. And that's I think is a circle, you know, whatever David was saying is what I think too, is a circle, because you go to a class, you want to learn, but at the end of the day, really what social media is got into our brain is that you have to look perfect. And I know I don't think that, you know, but we also have to understand that other students that are younger than us didn't have the same training as us. Like I'm lucky. I feel like so lucky. I had the best teachers. I had the best training. I did the whole like foundations, and I really try to like go to foundation classes when I can, because it doesn't mean that like I dance in heels and I have to, you know, just do that. I love dancing. I don't like dancing in a heel and that's it. And, you know, so especially, I mean, I like to train people that really want to train. That's the thing. Like to me, this conversation is for people that really want to train and become better dancers. Because if you come to my class, I mean, it's hard enough that you're not gonna, you know, if you're gonna post a video and you don't listen to me, I just, you know, I don't really know what you're posting that video. I actually got mad in one of my classes, and I know that people just don't understand sometimes, and it's completely fine. But I think it was like when we were back in September. And you know, one day I got mad. I get like, you know, I'm very Italian. I'm very like very passionate. I'm trying to learn the choreography. I'm trying to get the technique that I'm teaching you. How do you have time to pick up the camera? And it's 20 minutes to the end. You know, I was just like, huh? And also I think it's disrespectful for the teacher. That's just like my now I feel like more people come to my class, they know that they have to ask me if they can film themselves, because that's how I got told. I've learned from people that didn't want me to, you know, spend 15 minutes just filming myself. You can film yourself, as you said before, like, and I have tons of videos of me to like, I always like learn from watching myself as well, you know, but it's how you do it. You know, if it comes from a good place, I can see it. I'm not stupid, you know, like I know. But if you walk into my class just to get out of class with a video of you in heels, you can do it at home, because again, I'm teaching you. I'm not just like, you can learn a video from another video. Like it's a different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to, you know, you have to be willing to not just walk in a heels class and think that you can dance in a heel. I always say that in class as well, as David was saying about foundations. Like, to me, it's very important that, you know, you take your ballet class, you do your exercises for your ankles to be strong. You're like, you know, you get inspired by different people, and you really listen to the transitions in a choreography. Because if not, you know, it's like taking a popping choreography class without taking popping foundations before is literally the same thing.
No, for sure. And I feel like because heels gets a lot of traction on social media.
Yeah, of course.
So, you know, it becomes hugely popular, and then it becomes something that maybe, you know, maybe beginners would have a natural curiosity for, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
But I guess going without, like you're talking about, the preparation, even just the strengthening, just literally where you need to place your weight, because obviously it's such a different thing to just kind of, you know, being there in your trainers, you know. But yeah, it's tough, is it? Like, because there can be so much good that can come from using your camera in a beneficial way, using video in a beneficial way. But yeah, it's hard to find the balance, and it's hard to always know someone's intention, or maybe it's not hard to know someone's intention. Maybe you can see, like, even sometimes, like, because I teach a lot of beginners classes in normal times, and sometimes people just film in the middle of it, and you're like, we're literally not, like, now we're just in the middle of learning the thing, but people just want to film to then post to say they're there, you know. They like,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, there is good things. Again, like, it's saying the social media is all bad, it would be like a lie. Like, I can't say that, because a lot of us got jobs out of it, you know. Like, we know some people and their choreography through Instagram, and because we saw that there, like, you know, sometimes I film my class too, you know, in the end, and like, you know, I had to get someone to film it, because I can't think of class like I have a camera in my hand. Like, it gets me anxious to think about it. So I'm like, you know, and I'm very not used to it, but you know, there is good things out of it, but I feel like people need to be educated of how we should train in, you know, in the past. That's the only thing, because some people know, like just the not knowing that there is a background of training before, you know, what I think what David was saying is so true. Like there is so much expectations. No, you were saying, no, someone, there's so much expectations to the point that you can't go wrong. I see that so much in my class. Like people don't go off and I'm screaming. I'm like, dance. Like, yeah, you know, like you need to go off and dance because you have this hour. And I was saying it in November. I was like, I don't know when the next lockdown is going to come. Boom, it came, you know? And to me, of course you have to have technique, but like, do you want to live your life? This is so cheesy, but on the dance floor, do you want to live your life or do you want to just stay there and get the video out and not book the job because the jobs don't exist, you know? So that's another thing. It's like, you want to be so perfect that you're actually not pushing, you know? You want to, you get your makeup done and your good outfit on, but then you're not actually dancing. So what's the point of being there? You know, what's the point of learning? And you can do it in another moment or do it there, but like, you know, take the class twice, like, you know, take David and Vikki's class like 4 times, and then you know what step, not 4 times, maybe, maybe 2, but like more times, and then you're gonna be able to like, you know, to get it and to do it, and then you get the video. Like I'm the third person. I would love to have a video of every class that I take because then I can watch myself, you know, and be like, damn, like you look crazy, but.
But you're not gonna like, you kind of have to go consistently to be able to
for sure,
to really kind of get the detail, get the understanding, and get the, you know, like I often find that as well, you know, because there's always that initial when you take a new class or when you, like for me, what I admire most in dancers is transferable skill, you know, so like people who are just good dancers and they go from class to class and they can hang, you know, they can handle themselves and you know, not necessarily excel in every single class, although I'm sure there are some that can, but even if you're just good in every single class, because you don't kind of, you have that openness to new experiences and to kind of, again, like again, for me, it kind of goes back to the idea of class being a testing ground for your skills. Like, so you want to test yourself in different ways, you know, and I feel like that's the big thing for me with class culture that I would love to see almost be reintroduced, because I don't see it as such a widespread thing anymore. Like, and maybe cameras are part of that because people don't want to be caught on camera looking, you know, crazy. But like, I even think back to you know, like, I mean, if there were cameras back when I was starting out, there would be so many videos of me looking, you know, atrocious. But even when there are cameras, like I still go to, like, I think sometimes even it's hard for teachers to then go and take other classes because people already know you as a teacher of something, you know. But I never really cared about that kind of pressure because I was always just kind of, well, I want to get better at this, so I'm going to go, you know. But I do sometimes speak to other teachers or even some like working dancers who don't like to go to class because they're afraid of kind of, you know, what people will think of them. Like they feel that they, because people know them from jobs, they feel like if they don't like look amazing, they're kind of afraid of you know, kind of what what people are going to kind of think of them, you know. And I think it's tough, like, you know, to, again, like I guess for me, like the healthiest class culture would be one that has that acceptance of like, of class as a space to really be great, but also be not great while you're on the way to trying to get to be great, and also kind of be kind of great, but making mistakes on the way. You know, it needs to be a space for all of that. So yeah, I don't know. And I guess as teachers, we lead it, but then I feel like every teacher would need to be on the same page, I guess. And I feel like, because that's one thing for me as well. Even sometimes I look at classes and I'm like, that, like, not every class has to be like impossible or really difficult. I understand that, you know, and sometimes I go too far and I make stuff hard, you know, just because, again, that's the way I, like, you know, I love a challenge. Like always when I was in class and it would be difficult, I wouldn't blame the teacher. I would blame me, because I'd be like, no, blame's the wrong word, but I would kind of put the pressure on me to kind of be better rather than the pressure on being like, oh, why did they make it so hard? I would never think like that. I would always think like, no, you just need to be better, you know, and then I would kind of work on it like that. But I do feel like sometimes, and maybe the idea of certain, not from kind of anything that you guys are saying, but I sometimes like I look at some videos from class and I'm like, okay, that like no disrespect intended, and maybe they did like 45 minutes on something else and like, you know, a different concept or like an exercise or something, but like I feel like I could learn that in a very short space of time, you know, to a good level. Like I feel like I do feel like classes have maybe been simplified or, you know, kind of maybe made to cater to the level of someone who wants to get in, learn a set amount of 8 counts and get a good video by the end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, and I know a couple of people that I've talked to about it that feel the same way, but you know, like it's hard. It's smart, perhaps from a marketing point of view for a teacher, because then you get so many people sharing videos from your class and everyone looks good. But then, I don't know, for the growth aspect or for the kind of, you know, like artistic development aspect of a dancer or as a performer or even just as a, like as practicing your skills, I feel like it's maybe missing something, you know?
I believe in raising the quality of your work and of your class to inspire people to do the same. So that happens, what you just said, it does happen. Is part of that circle that we were talking about before. It's part of the circle of like, you know, the filming, the, you know, the not going wrong, the always being perfect. So you need to cater the class for the people that are gonna pay your money. Like, and I wouldn't be happy doing that. That's the thing, you know. And I've had conversations before with people that were like, you know, your core is too hard. Why don't you make it easier? To me, it's like, I feel good doing that, and I also want to learn from my own choreography. Like I want to grow in my, you know, in my own choreography. I want to, you know, I want to train while I'm creating. I don't know if that makes sense, but again, we can talk hours about this, but I feel like it's, you know, if you're doing, I believe in that. I don't know if it's just me, like, but if you do the right thing and if you try to rise up the standard, I hope that there is enough people that look at you and they're like, damn, I should do the same. Because even if you earn a little bit less money and you're less popular in Instagram, then but the people know, you know, I'd rather go to the class of the person that is not super famous, but I'm gonna get out and be a better dancer than, you know, than being in the back and yawn because you're learning the same steps for half an hour, you know. So again, is the community like, you just I feel like as teachers as well, you need to like, you know, surround yourself by people that think the same and try to get everyone to be better, you know, because it's an hour and a half, but it's an hour and a half in a week that can be repeated every week. So it is, you know, I feel like it's a big responsibility. I know that it's just like an hour and a half, but to me it's like, you know, I have a responsibility of someone's training for an hour and a half. And every class is different, you know. I want to go to the class where it's easy sometimes to be like, hey, I just want to dance. But as a teacher, you're like, you want to teach. You don't want to just like prance around for an hour and a half.
No, but I think as well, you want to teach how you were taught. You know, like I get as or how you were inspired when you were taking, because obviously not every single class you will have taken in your life inspired you, but you know, the ones that particularly did, you know. Yeah, it's it's a good point. I think like I don't know, I feel like the right people, not the right people is the wrong word, but I like that's, I remember actually, Vikki, we had a conversation and you were kind of like, you were talking to me about like not posting on social media, and I would kind of, you know, and that leading to not that many people, or certainly of the newer generation, kind of knowing about the class. And I was like, yeah, but I just feel like the people who want to be there are going to be there, you know, like, and in a way, then you kind of get like that sense of, you know, the people that are there are choosing to be there. They're not there because maybe they saw that it was popular, but they're there because they actually, appreciate what it is you do. But then also maybe it's, it's hard to find the balance sometimes between that and then the smart business sense that some people are doing if they're consciously choosing to make their classes, at just kind of a reachable level where people feel like, okay, it's a little bit challenging, but I can get it straight away and I can or maybe not even that much of a challenge realistically with, perhaps with some of the ones that you see. So it's hard from I guess as well, it's about kind of how authentic you feel you are being to yourself really as a teacher in that,
And I feel a lot more comfortable with my decision of when I do choose to film class now, because I'm like, I know my intentions are pure and I know that I don't have the camera there specifically just for that. I give the class my attention. I don't give the camera my attention. And at the end of the class, I don't pick people out. I just go 3 people, one. Because for me, if I'm in the class and I'm given the option to step up, then I'm stepping up because I want to show, and then I'm not feeling pressured. There's no pressure whatsoever. And another thing that I've noticed, like specifically in my classes, is that when people die or whatever you want to call it, they'll just walk off, and I'm like, just fight for it, stay and feel uncomfortable for however long that might feel, like 10 minutes, but it's 2 seconds out of your life. Find it and get back in. So that then becomes a bad habit of when I've lost the choreography, I'm defeated, I then walk off. And also like at the end of class, like I've just the end of the choreography, I see people just like chuck it and walk off. I'm like, just take that space. You're paying for this class. Like, this is also important to explore how it is you like to move, and like it's important to dance for you, because so many people are dancing like for approval. And I was that dancer, and I think like that's sometimes what you adopt from going through uni, because you're constantly looking for approval from the teacher, like to make sure that you're doing it right. But you just need to be that for yourself. And I feel like you've covered everything that is important. But like another thing as well, it's like I see people, like when I do the whole group thing, group 1, group 2, and then we switch, people are at the side not even appreciating what's on this space. And that's so important, like to watch and see how other people are maybe like interpreting that. Like that's important, and just having that support in the space is missing. Is missing. And that's the sort of environment I was sort of introduced with. So then to come to London and it's slowly sort of fizzling out because social media is becoming such a big aspect of our life. And we're right, it is such a good thing. It can be used in such a good way. But I feel people want to be icons, like they want to be famous. They're wanting the best outfits, which is fine. I wear funky outfits to class because I like to wear funky outfits, but it's not because, like, I don't know, I'm not doing it for social media. I'm doing it literally for me. So it's a shame. It's a shame what's missing now, and it's going, like, I feel like I go to David's class because I like David's class for a certain thing. I go to John's class because I like how he teaches in that way. Dean's class because I need to be clean and I need my eyelash to face 90 degrees northwest. Do you know what I'm saying? And I go to certain classes for certain things, and that's why I'm like, I like to just have my hour and a half on a Sunday to create a space that I would like. If I went to a class, what would I like? So and I find it really hard because I've got this tendency to compare myself to other people a lot, and obviously listen to how everyone teaches their class. I go, oh shit, I don't do that. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I don't do that. I don't teach like that. So then I put pressure. I'm like, maybe I should be doing that. But no, like I know I've got something to offer, and I just need to like go with that. And like I have to be honest. I was never someone that was introduced to the sort of hip hop through foundations. I learned foundations through choreography, but it was never, yeah. And then that's where I feel, I'm like, am I even entitled to have a class? Do I feel like I'm allowed to teach, because I don't bang foundation classes, but I have a solid, I don't know. This is something I actually want to talk about.
Go for it.
Obviously I know that foundations are vital. They're a vital part of your training. But knowing that I didn't come from that space, I don't know. I don't know if anyone's got anything to add to that,
I
but
think it depends, Vikki. Like if you're, I think if you're teaching a style, like a style that has a history and a vocabulary and and a culture to it, particularly, you should understand that to a very high level.
yeah.
But as I think so long as you have, I think one of the kind of carrying messages from what people have been saying so far, which is, a really, really great one, that you should only really teach what you know well, And I remember like something I was told, if you can't explain it well to a 6-year-old, you don't know it enough to teach it. Because at 6, kids' brains are starting to work, so they're not like, that really kind of young, but you need to be able to explain it in that way. It's one thing I really learned from teaching beginners, because I didn't teach beginners for a long time, and I was such a dickhead kind of when I was performing and working a lot as a dancer, and kind of thinking, oh, I only want to teach advanced dances. I only want to teach the kind of dances that I hang around with. And, and then I started teaching beginners, and I just kind of, in a way, it kind of reconnected me to what I loved about dance at first, and you have to be a completely different kind of teacher when you teach beginners, because you have to explain it, or you have to break it down, and you have to understand it better. So I feel like the level of understanding, if you're worried, I mean, one, we all have seen you dance, so we all know you're a fantastic dancer. But like when it comes to you feeling inadequate in your understanding of foundations, if you're not teaching them, if your class is not centered around those foundations, then I feel like, for me anyway, that's how I would feel about this, because I feel like that's the one thing about foundations and basics, is no one can ever be too good at them. You can always get better, or get a greater understanding of them, or a new perspective on them, or a new awareness on them, so we should all always, the very first thing David said about what makes a good teacher was a good student, and I feel like you should always stay a student of everything, even the stuff that you're already very good at. That's not to say you can only practice what you're very good at, because really that's what you should spend the least time in your practice on, because you're already good at it. But so you should either approach it with a new perspective, or you should always just make sure you're kind of keeping up those kind of that high level that you have achieved in that, So yeah, I think when you're worried kind of about the foundational knowledge, maybe it doesn't, does it really apply to your teaching?
No.
No, but I think this has kind of turned into I actually think this is a great question in terms of the general teaching question, about what makes a good teacher. And I think even questioning yourself is a part of being a good teacher, And as we were all kind of saying, you might make something up, and then you change it 5 million times before you finally teach it to other people other than people close to you, I'm say one thing that I know, say for me and Mark, we'll teach one Thursday, and then the next Thursday, I've changed everything about my sections. I loved his so much that it made me want to make mine better. You know what I mean? So then I'll go and change everything, And it's I think that's part of kind of what makes, one is part of the creative process, which I think, I remember watching an interview with Fly Styles, and he was kind of saying that when it comes to making up choreo, he's he finds it easy, And I got to say, I find making up choreography very easy. But I don't but I think there's a difference between productivity and creativity, because I feel like you can be productive, but not necessarily creative. Say again?
I remember you talking about this.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Retreading old ground for you, but maybe for people who haven't heard it, that's just for me, my take on it, But he was you have to love the creative process. You have to love what's good and bad about it. You have to love the struggle, the days that it's a struggle to create, because it's part of it. It's a natural part of it, and not every day you're going to feel like I said, I can be productive any day, but I'm not creative every day, and it's the days when I'm creative, I love them particularly because I feel like I've really kind of, maybe, especially when you've been teaching as long as I have, like it's so easy. Like because I've got like a library of stuff to draw on, like I can kind of take that forehand, maybe that, twist that a bit. Okay, cool, I'm done. But like actually to feel like I've done something new to my own body and to my own perspective, like I almost feel like a bit of a, like, a pat on the back is due, because I'm like, oh, you finally, you've kind of, I don't know, pushed yourself in a way, or kind of taken yourself to like a new territory in a way,
Yeah, and I know, when it's like, see, when I first did start, English, that was not Scottish either. When I first started teaching, I didn't have much on my CV, but it's crazy what you think. Like, I felt like people started to value me more when I got the jobs, but nothing about these jobs have changed.
I know, it's not.
It's crazy, but I feel like I've sort of slipped in, and I'm like not in between the generations, but like I feel like I've experienced a bit of both, and I understand both ways of thinking, if that makes any sense.
No, sure.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Go for it, Irene.
No, it's just because it made me think of myself as well, and I had kind of the same thing. Like, I remember I started teaching because it actually took me a while, because people were like, "Oh, you should start teaching." I was like, "Nah, I don't feel ready." So I went back to learn more, and I wasn't teaching just heels. I was just teaching whatever I felt like it was good. But that was when I started teaching. There was something in the back of my head that started creeping and saying, like, you can't teach because you haven't been on world tour. So you can't teach girls how to walk in heels because you've never danced on a world tour in heels. So you can't. This is me being very honest. Like, I just had the same feeling as Vikki. Like, but I felt like it, first of all, I had a conversation with my friends about this. And I think it just, it comes from, insecurities that, again, social media gives us. Is like, that person is teaching, or, it depends what your class is for. It's like, I'm not teaching you how to perform in a world tour, so it depends what it is. But sometimes the insecurities made me a better teacher in a way, because sometimes they creep through, and I was like, who am I to do that? And I don't know if people start coming because you did jobs or not, but I don't think you became a better teacher because you did that job. I think it's just the perception of people is very, is very based on CV for performing. But I'm telling you that I've been to some classes with people that have performed tons.
Yeah, me too.
I was like, what? Like, have you heard this song before? Like, I have this thing about me. I never walk out of class. I've never walked out ever. Because to me, it's like, I paid my money. This is the shittiest class I've ever done in my life, but I can get something out of it, like just a little something. And I get so angry because I want to be a good teacher. So sometimes I'm like what? But I've been in situations where I was so close to walk out, because I was like, you inspire so many people by your work and your CV, but there is nothing you're teaching me. So I don't think it's necessarily the best answers that I've done the best jobs, and vice versa, Sure. I don't know. You can learn so much in the jobs, or you're still Vikki at the end of the day. So you haven't, that job hasn't really made you a better teacher. You were a good teacher before. But I had the same thing, especially, because of heels. I had the same thing. Sometimes it comes back. Sometimes I'm like, damn, I want to work more, because, that's so stupid, because I'm still myself, and what you can learn from training is very different from what you can learn on a job, I think. So it's
yeah.
What you teach. Like, I
think it's even how to be in class as well, because I've been in class where people come in late, and I know sometimes people can run late, but if you've just went round the corner for a fag and then just decided to miss the warm-up, it's so disrespectful. And well, to me, that's also missing as well, just class etiquette.
Oh yeah.
Straight away. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and going back to like the camera thing, I remember I literally just disconnected my phone for the speaker, and I turned around and someone was like, "Can I have the video?" And I'm like, "Are you joking? Let me breathe. Let me breathe." I'm like, "For that? No, I don't want to send you the video because I know why you're here."
It's hard. That it's hard. Like I the video thing is, yeah, it's kind of like trying to find
a nice balance.
Yes, a nice balance, but even or like like even a way of distributing it so that people like you, so you don't get things like that, that whereas like you've just finished class, you want a moment just to kind of decompress for yourself, but people are looking for not even kind of saying thanks and kind of just trying to connect with you on a human level. It's like, no, can I have a video, please? That goes back to etiquette, like you said, and I think it's etiquette is tough now. Like it just feels kind of different, I don't know, like the way, but then it's just hard not to sound like you're harping on about the good old days when everyone, there were no cameras, everyone worked really hard, and you're like, that wasn't the case, but it does seem like, just in comparison, like there was an element of that that's missing perhaps now, but yeah, it's, I don't know. And I think just to go back to what you said a minute ago, like, I think one important aspect of teaching as well is, I know I started teaching too early, like for sure. But I started teaching too early because there was very little else on offer in Dublin where I was from. I'd kind of been training with all the people that were there who were established. And then I was like, okay, well, I feel like I do have something to offer that's different to them, because at that point I'd traveled to like the States a few times, and I'd experienced different things to them. And it wasn't a case that everyone could watch classes from there wasn't even YouTube then at that stage, you know what I mean? So people couldn't watch classes from everywhere around the world. So you were bringing your experiences back with you to where you were from. And there was it was kind of a novelty to that, because everyone had different experiences. So everyone would kind of create slightly differently. Whereas now, everyone can be influenced just from watching videos of a certain choreographer, or, a few different choreographers. So even kind of when you feel ready to teach, it's tough. And I know I wasn't ready to teach, but I guess I was kind of teaching out of necessity in a way. Well, necessity is the wrong word, because no one needed it except me. I needed it, but so that's the wrong word to use. But I kind of taught out of just a sense of trying to offer something, and that was different in where I was from. But do you feel like you kind of almost have to jump in the deep end with teaching, or do you feel like there's a point where you feel ready?
I do feel ready, but it's like going back to what I said, I've got this tendency to compare and go, oh, am I doing it right? Like there's no really right way of doing it. Like I know like deep down there is something that my class does offer people, so I just need to go with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think I started, well, I'm 25 now. I started teaching just because I really love to create. I love to hold a space with people. And I knew that that's what I enjoyed, but I was not always good at it. And I think through teaching, I have learned a lot about what to do and what not to do, and how to gauge the time, how to do this, how to do that, how to read a room. And it's actually taught me a lot about myself, teaching and teaching itself. I feel like I'm constantly evolving as the days go on when I'm teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy it. And I don't even like to call it teaching. I'm just sharing.
Yeah, but then for me, I would have an issue with that though, because I feel like if you're taking on the role of when you're accepting payment for class, you are a teacher.
I just don't see myself as a teacher. Maybe others see me as that, but
as in, okay, so what is it that's stopping you seeing yourself as a teacher? Is it like you don't think you have enough experience, or is it you don't think you're is it even age? Do you think you don't want to look at yourself as a teacher when you're 25?
No, no. I don't know what it is. I just don't like the title.
Okay.
I don't enjoy having that title of I'm a teacher.
Is that because of a sense of responsibility, or what do you think it is?
Well, I guess I do take on the responsibility by holding a space naturally, but I don't like it's like being vegan. I don't like saying I'm vegan. Like, I don't like having a thing on it, but I just like to share. And well, I guess that comes with the respect that we have being a teacher. I don't know. I'm digging a hole here, aren't I?
No, you're not digging a hole at all, Vikki. No, I think it's interesting. I genuinely really feel like it's actually an interesting kind of idea, because it's like I just think that you are sharing when you are teaching your class, you are sharing your skill and you're guiding people. Like, I think the ultimate kind of idea of a teacher, I guess, it's like things that both David and Irene kind of touched on, is like you want your students to kind of grow beyond you, because again, one kind of important thing I think that students don't always realize is that you take on, if you study with a teacher consistently, you take on their strengths, but you also take on their weaknesses. So the things that they don't have you working on aren't going to strengthen, but you will get better at the things they do have you working on, And I feel like you kind of, you call it holding the space, but you also lead the space, So you are teaching, even if you don't maybe want to call yourself or give yourself that title. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm a teacher.
That's a big breakthrough for Vikki there.
Oh.
No, I know for me, say when I first moved here in 2005, like a lot of and I actually loved teaching at that point, and I'd gotten, much better than when I first started. I got a class quite quickly through a series of fortunate circumstances. Like, people asked me to sub, and then the studio saw me sub and offered me a class. So I was quite lucky in that it all happened pretty quickly for me. But like, I feel like I definitely kind of grew into that. But a lot of the working dancers who I was working with at the time didn't want to teach, because they felt like once you started teaching, people thought your career was over.
Yeah.
They kind of, because people would just see you as a teacher then. Whereas now I feel like actually you can really coexist as a performer and a teacher. And I always felt that. Whereas I guess the people who there were a few others like me, like say Sean or Cisco, who would always kind of work, and Kim, like they were always working, but also teaching a lot. Whereas now people are very happily coexist with those kind of titles. You know what I mean? And again, it kind of goes back. I don't think your CV gives you ability as a teacher. It doesn't at all. Like, being a good teacher is different from being a good dancer or being a good performer, but it helps sell your class on, to a certain, I'm like, even I say for me, like when I was in the States and there'd be like a poster saying someone's giving a master class and they'd have all these credits, I'd be like, okay, well, they must be good if they've done that. And then you go, and sometimes you may be disappointed in the actual class, but sometimes even just watching them demonstrate, you're like, okay, yeah, obviously they're a super high level performer. You know what I mean? But because I actually think it's weird, you don't actually need a great teacher to have a great class if you have great students. But obviously, if teaching is what you're doing, you should try and be as good at it as you can possibly be. But like, I've taken many classes where the teaching wasn't great, but obviously we're good at learning, even just from watching. Even if they can't explain it, we can kind of figure it out ourselves. And they may have wonderful material, but they can't explain for, but you can still have a great class despite them not being good at their part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, no, exactly. No, don't, Irene, I'm 100% with you. Like, ideally, when you're teaching a class, you should be good at the teaching part of it. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I get confused. I get so confused because I go to some classes and I'm just, maybe you've heard about this person and you have expectations because you've heard very good things of that class, and maybe the choreography looks amazing, and you go to the class and you're like, and am I crazy? Like, am I the insane person that is not happy with this? Like, and it happens a lot of times, it happens even now when I go and take class that everyone is taking. So I want to dance with my friends, so I go class and then I'm like looking around with like, everyone is so happy, like, but I just don't know what I'm dancing on. So are we on the same page? Like, where is the happy spot? Because I can't find it, because I don't know, I don't, do you know what I mean? And it's like, there is no musicality. We're dancing on 1, 2, 3, but you've never heard this song before because you don't even know the words of it. So, and everyone is so happy and everyone is posting saying like best class ever. And I'm there in the corner, but like, huh? Like, am I going crazy? I know that I'm not, but I feel like I feel like, again, is what I was saying before about the community rising up the standards together. Because if I'm the only person that is going to say like, look, I'm never going to go back to that class because it was, a waste of my money. If it's one person, then of course everyone is going to teach like that because it gives people money. I don't know, like it happened to me where I'm having a laugh because I'm like, nah, this is not what I've trained years for. If not just for teaching, but for sharing. If we're talking about sharing, you're still the person that people need to look up to and be like, yo, I want to learn how she moves like that. So it's yeah, it's crazy. But I hate judging people because I know that behind it I hope people have good intentions, and I'm not going to be the person judging people for what they do. I want to stand for what I think is good and what I think is good to give to people. So to me, it's like when people carry on going to bad teachers, I'm very confused. That's the only way that I can describe it, is like confusion. I'm like, what is going on? But maybe I'm the only one. Maybe.
No, I'm sure we've all experienced that in our own ways, and I think again, like it's the spectrum of classes has
of course
space for everything, and sometimes someone who like you can certainly sometimes when there's visiting teachers from abroad and you like they're on they're here maybe doing a teaching tour or they're here with an artist, and then you take it and you're like, oh, okay, wow, I always thought this would feel different because you may have seen it and then imagined how it would feel on the body or imagine what the class experience would be like, because I think that's something that you can never come across in a video is the class experience. Because it's so different. Like maybe if someone shoots like a 5-minute kind of taster of their class with kind of showing the learning process as well as the actual human element, as well as then maybe if there is a choreography, if that was the goal of the class, the choreography to kind of finish. But most of the time people just post the combo, you know what I mean? So you don't really actually get an impression of what the actual the class itself necessarily was like, or the biggest part of the class element, which should be the learning process, I guess, and the practicing process was like. Yeah. I don't know. I want to finish this one. I want to finish it on like because in a way, like it's like we said, the looking at what we do kind of objectively and critically is important, and it's it's kind of it's good, it's positive, even though sometimes what we're actually saying sounds like when it's critique should be used positively, you know what I mean, rather than kind of thinking of it as a negative thing. It's good because we're just, like you said, we're looking to kind of lift the kind of the standards and lift the kind of level of practice that we all kind of would like to see, So yeah, okay, let's finish then with just kind of maybe one thing that you, I guess right now, because we're not getting to have in-person classes, so maybe the thing you miss most about your class.
I think just the obvious thing, like seeing other people take on material and be honest with it and give part of themselves with it as well. Because I feel like I always try at least to encourage people to, yes, try to be like me for the parts that I want you to be like me and execute like me. But whether it be like an 8 of freestyle or something that's guided, I want you to use this concept for 2 8s. Like I like to intersperse the structure with parts for freedom, and seeing people, what comes out by the end of the last 10 minutes, the last 15 minutes, when people are really in it and they just let go and do some crazy stuff that you just weren't expecting or wouldn't have thought yourself to do with the music, is definitely one of the things I miss most. Just seeing people like express and having that fresh perspective on something that you've made is always an amazing feeling.
That's brilliant. Love it.
I feel like I just miss the energy of other people in the class, not just in my class, but in any class, to be honest. Because that's, again, I like to dance by myself, but to me, I'm such a people person. I love to dance with other people. And teaching wise, yeah, I miss that energy. And I know for a fact that sometimes I have a lot of energy and I have too much energy, but that's because I want my class to become like, you know, a place where people feel like they can be themselves, even if we're wearing a heel, you know. Um, yeah, I just, but even if when we came back in September, actually, that wasn't the same energy. I feel like it was just different because we've been away for a long time and stuff like that. So I literally was trying my best to make people dance for the sake of dancing, also training, but like just to release and I don't know, just being together in a studio because it's very like one person and one person and one person. I just want to dance together. So I hope we'll be back soon in the right way. Yeah, but I just, you know, I just miss the being together and uh, seeing my choreography on other people and just doing it together. Yeah, because I actually enjoy more watching people doing my stuff than doing it myself. I know that sounds crazy, but
I think
so
that, yeah, I'm 100% with you on that one.
so I miss the togetherness and not the home alone situation, you know.
Vikki, go for it there.
I miss the feeling of getting into class with a new combination and knowing I don't know it, I don't have it, and just standing there and being like, right guys, let's do it together. I miss that feeling of being like, right, cool, we're working on this, let's get it, and I'll teach as much as what we can, and then that's it. We'll just dance. And to be honest, I look forward to like the end of class. The end of class is my favourite. Is like when I've given the combination out and we can just like, have fun. That's it. I miss people. I miss people.
Sure.
What about you, John?
Yeah, I think a combination of everything you guys have said. Like you've all summed it up really nicely. Like I miss seeing people take what you've come up with and layering themselves on top of it. You know what I mean? Or kind of weaving their artistry or their takes on it into kind of the guideline you've given them, you know, and then the social aspect, as Irene was saying, like I think that's such a big part of dance, and that's a big part of like the difference between like online dance classes and in-person dance classes, just that social aspect and being inspired by each other in the room, kind of feeling like you're part of the same struggle, feeling like you're connected in that way, you know. And then like Vikki, like you were saying, like that aspect of going in and kind of having something new for people and just experiencing the learning process throughout that time, you know. It's such a, yeah, there's something lovely about I don't know, I feel like dance has so many things to offer us as people, like from the learning process to the expressive process and then the kind of growing more and more out of yourself to give, you know, as you're doing it. And actually, I'm with Irene at this point now. Like, I love watching people much more than I like doing. Like, you know, don't get me wrong, I feel like I like doing, but I feel I genuinely just love watching people kind of bringing their skill to what you have brought in and seeing how it kind of blends and seeing where it ends up, you know what I mean? And then like even the elements that David was saying, when people have those moments to just kind of freestyle or even just take what you do but do it their way, and it's, you know, like I don't know, I think that's part of the magic of why we all love it so much, you know what I mean? And why, you know, we can harp on about dance for as long as we've talked about it now, you know what I mean? It's like it's genuinely, I feel like it's such a magical thing, you know, like and I think that's why we end up being so passionate about it, you know. But yeah, I would like to thank you guys all so much for being part of it, and fingers crossed it's not too long till we're all back at base doing what we love to do. So yes, thank you very much, and catch you guys soon, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.